Hi, my beautiful friends. Welcome once again to Florida Kitchen. And today I'm going to be making some Mexican tacos. We're not very used to eating Mexican tacos here in Miami, but we really love them. And the meat I'm going to be using is this meat. It's called sizzle steak, beef chuck shoulder steak. I know there's a specific kind of steak that is used for beef tacos, but this is the one I'm using. So I recommend that you have a thin sliced type of meats. This one we got at Walmart, and this is the price right there. So I'm going to be using that. We're going to be using some Mission tortillas, some tomatoes. Now normally in beef tacos you use green tomatoes called tomatillos. I think that's what it's called. But here in Miami they're not really popular because we don't have a very big Mexican population. But I'm going to use these red tomatoes, so don't judge me. I'm just using my style. And some cilantro. So I'm going to be boiling these tomatoes before putting them in the blender with some type of jalapeno. I don't have the jalapenos they use, so I'm using my own style of jalapenos. So welcome, and hope you guys like it. Okay, so what I did now is that I am boiling 2 tomatoes. This is the tomatoes I'm using for my salsa for our Mexican tacos. Now you have to boil it first. Now you could use more tomatoes. I would suggest you use more tomatoes, but we're gonna use the rest of the tomatoes for a salad. Okay, so I'm boiling that over, and now here I have the ingredients. Now here I'm using bitter orange. However, you could also use just a plain orange for your meats, okay? But I'm using the bitter orange, some salts, some oregano, a little bit of fajita seasoning, just a little bit because that's a strong flavor, and some black pepper and some salts for my meat. Now what I'm doing is that I'm putting my meat on water so I can clean the meat from the blood that's in there, okay? And then I'll season it. So that's the first step. Okay, now that the tomatoes are boiling, I washed this meat with water and salt. So I cleaned it thoroughly. Just, you see, there's just a little bit of blood that's left over. But, okay, so I just cleaned my meat with water and salt. Made sure that the blood from the meat is rinsed over, okay? Now, the ingredients I'm going to add are a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of fajita, and a teaspoon of black pepper. And then I'll soak this in bitter orange. However, you could add just orange, like a big orange, and just squeeze that over, rinsing the meats. And just let that stay while you're cooking your salsa. Alright, my beautiful friends, so I added everything of all the ingredients, and I just added the bitter orange. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to marinate it with my hands. I'm using gloves. You could use your bare hands if you clean them, and this is how you do it. And you just let that stay for a little while while you're making that salsa, okay? And while your tomatoes are boiling. But you could use just a normal orange, as I said before. Okay, perfect. Okay, my beautiful friends, now that the meat is seasoning and ready, now my tomatoes have boiled, and I'm going to add the tomatoes. I'm just going to make sure I don't have water there, and I'm going to put them inside the blender. Okay, now I'm going to put this tomatoes with some hot pepper. Now I don't have the jalapenos that our beautiful Mexican people use for their salsa. So I'm going to use this type of tomatoes. I think they're called Scotch. What's it called? I think the Scotch Bonnet or something like that. You buy it at Publix here in Florida. Okay, so I'm going to be using some of these with my tomatoes. Now these are really strong. Okay, so I'll be just adding just a few. Okay, so I already had this prepared. Cut them out. Let me just add one more here. Now these are really strong. Don't touch them with your fingers. If you're gonna cut them, use gloves. If you want to use a jalapeno that's less stronger than this, go ahead. Just gonna add one more. And right there are my tomatoes and my jalapeno. All right, so it's gonna be a little strong. So I'm gonna put that and blend it. Okay, my beautiful friends, so I'm gonna blend this over. It's gonna be a little noisy, so just pause those parts. Oh my goodness, guys, you should smell this. The strong smell of that jalapeno, which is not a jalapeno, it's kind of like a jalapeno. But my salsa came out red instead of coming green like it should be. But it doesn't matter. If you don't have green tomatillos, just use the red tomatoes. Okay, my beautiful friends, now that the salsa is made, I'm going to be making a pico de gallo, okay? Now what you need are tomatoes. I'm going to be using 2 tomatoes, half of an onion, some lemon, and some cilantro. So I'll be cutting those in little squares, okay? You could cut it which way you want to cut it. And then I'll be cutting half of the onion, okay? And half of the lemon for the pico de gallo, and also my cilantro. So cut all of those in tiny little pieces. So I'll finish doing this and I'll show you the end results. Okay, this is delicious for your tacos. You cannot have your tacos without that pico de gallo. Now, some do the pico de gallo without the tomatoes, but I like to use the tomatoes. It gives it an even more delicious flavor to your pico de gallo, okay? Okay, now while I'm doing the pico de gallo, the next step is to cook the meats. Now, they use Mexican onions, which are the green long ones. I don't have those, so I'm using just the half of a white onion. So I'm gonna let this saute, and then I'm gonna put that delicious meat that I have seasoning over here for the last few minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna put that there. All right, my beautiful friends, so now I'm laid the meat. I laid it flat, and it's a thin sliced meat, so it's easier to cook. Now, some other people, they cut the meat in little pieces before actually cooking it, but we're gonna cook it first for a few minutes, and then we'll cut it into pieces and then finish cooking it once again. Okay, so we added a little bit of garlic, and we're gonna let that stay, okay? And, let's add one more piece. So let's add one more piece right there. Okay, so he's gonna help me lay that flat. Perfect. We just have, let me see, like about 2 pieces of meat left over to cook. All right, so that's the next process. All right, my beautiful people, I'm almost finished with that pico de gallo. The tomatoes are on the bottom, the cilantro on the top. I need to cut 1 onion, but I'm gonna show you how the meat is coming up. Look at that meat, right? It smells really good, doesn't it? Now we're gonna, in a few minutes, we're gonna take it out, cut it into pieces, and put it back into the skillet to finish cooking. Okay, so now I'm cutting the meat into pieces. This is the meat that we were just cooking. And look, guys, I have just finished making the pico de gallo. I was looking at it, and darn it, it has the same colors of the Mexican flag. Green, white, and red. So that's cool. And now we have our salsa, our pico de gallo. I added half of a lemon on top of it and some salt. And I cut the other half into little pieces for our tacos. So now I'm just cutting that meat. It's kind of thoroughly cooked. Now we cut it into tiny pieces, okay? And we're gonna be doing that. Smells really good. You guys, I wish you guys could smell the flavors of the jalapeno, the pico de gallo, those cilantro, those onions. It's delicious. No wonder people love Mexican food so much. It smells amazing. So this is amazing. It's gonna come out really delicious. Now I could just go like this. I think it's easier. Cutting out. Okay, perfect. And I'll show you the next step. Okay, my beautiful friends, we're almost done, and then we're heating those tortillas. And we're adding some pan, right? Some pan to some spray to make it easier to heat those tortillas. All right, and just heat it up. And now look at the end result of everything else. We have our lemon there, our meat right there. We cooked it thoroughly. Instead of like cooking it, taking it out, cutting it, and putting it back in, we just cut it thoroughly and just finished at the end. Pico de gallo and our hot salsa. You could use tomatillos, as I said before. So we're almost finished, and I'll show you how that looks. So excited. Okay guys, so now we're serving it, and now we're putting that beef right there, and now we're putting those pico de gallo. My husband likes it a little bit more toastier. I like it more on the softer side. Now you put a little bit of lemon, right? Because you like lemon. And a little bit of that salsa, but be careful with that salsa because that's really hot. So add just a little bit. That's too much. Okay then. it's all on your risk. So look, that is delicious, isn't it? Now we used flour tortillas, but I prefer corn tortillas instead. But if you don't have it, go ahead and use what you have. So how is it? Delicious. All right then. So guys, comment, subscribe, and share. I mean, we don't eat much Mexican tacos here in Miami because we don't have. It's mostly a Caribbean community. But let me tell you, I'm gonna eat one right now, and this is super delicious. All right, guys, see you later here at Florida Kitchen, and follow me on Instagram at Florida Kitchen 1. Bye-bye.